Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I take all of my Carl Zeiss Zf.2 lenses and convert every single one of them to an EF mount, adding focus gears, and adding a front filter ring. All of these products are provided by Simmod, and I went through the entire process without cutting it all. There might be a few cuts in there, but the whole thing is that I wanted to show you how I went through the entire process for the first time, never doing this before, and some of the issues I ran into. It's a very long video because I ran through the whole thing, and I'm actually filming on the 21 Zeiss right now, so I converted a 21 Zf.2, a 35 Zf.2, a 50mm Zf.2, and then a 85 ZF, which the only difference between those was that you don't have the Nikon electronics in there. So other than that, it's the same Nikon mount, so it's pretty much a similar process. But you'll get to see from start to finish how I did all of these. And I want to apologize now for the audio. I was just using the camera audio from the overhead camera, and I wasn't thinking I was going to talk through the whole time, but it was kind of a soothing process. So if you can make it all the way through the video, I'll see you at the end. Way back when I was doing my Canon days, I ended up picking up these Zeiss Zf.2 lenses. And what I loved about these lenses is that you could actually adjust the aperture, because the ZE line was automatic and you actually had to read it through the camera. But this, when you added a Nova Flex adapter, you could actually move these in and out and do fine adjustments on the iris, which was really cool. So I had this 50, and then I also got the 35, which was a really cool focal length. I don't know why I went with 35 and 50 right off the bat, but it's probably a price thing because I was just starting out. And then I wanted to complete this set, so I ended up getting a 21, which I'm really liking what I've seen so far off of this. And then also, same thing, the ZE or Zf.2 line as well. So the big thing with the Zf.2 is that you had these contact points for Nikon. You didn't really need them, and I'm showing you here when you're using Canon lenses, of course. But here, I just got the 85 in, and as you see on this one, it's a standard ZF. So it's not a Zf.2, but so you don't get the contact points. But if you look at this lens, I mean, it's just gorgeous, and it has very nice lens. So love the weight of these things. They're really hefty. But what we're gonna do with all of these, and I'm sorry again that this is an extra long video, but I'm gonna take all of these lenses, and let's set them aside here, and bring out a bag full of stuff. So tons and tons of stuff. We'll go through all this and sort it all out. But what I ended up doing was, from this company called Simmod, I ended up getting these step-up rings, which all of them would have a 77mm ring on the inside, 80 on the outside, so that they would all be consistent. And then, as well as these, I ended up getting these caps that will fit the front of all these. I didn't get them branded. You can get them branded, but I'll probably end up designing some stickers to fit those. So for each one of these lenses, they have that available. And then I ordered this grease, which we're going to use when we declick the lenses. It's a specialty grease that's really nice and thick. So this is going to be great for when you declick a lens. You want to have some resistance on it. So, and then on top of that, I decided to go with rings, with focus rings for all of them. I am noticing that I did go with the larger ring, and for some of these, like this one, obviously is not going to be the one that fits, but for some of these, it fits really nice. Like that's going to be great on there. But I noticed with my 85, it's a little bit wider, so we might get some coverage over some of our text, but we'll see what that looks like. So let's clear this stuff off and let's get all the right pieces for one of them, and we'll get started on this. So they also suggest using some thread locker. I'm just going to use some of this stuff that's actually like removable, so that we can, in case you ever want to do that. But we have everything laid out here. So I'm going to put a little thread locker just in one of these corners so it's easier to kind of dip into it. Because we don't need a ton of that on there, you know. Alright, so we've got that there. First thing we're going to do, we're going to check out the lens. And this is going to be a longer video, so if you don't want to stick around for the whole thing, I understand. But we're going to check out the front here. This is one that I bought off of eBay, and it was in really good shape, so I was really pumped about this purchase because, you know, sometimes you can get some great deals on eBay and sometimes you get some pretty crappy deals, or you get some okay deals, I say. But first thing I'm going to do is get that all cleaned up, and what we can do is just use a lens wipe. We'll take one of these and actually get this cleaned up a little bit here. I thought I'd just start with the front because we can get the caps on and feel good about that. Get that wiped down. Like I said, it's in pretty good shape, so just get this cleaned up as much as you need to start. Looks pretty good. Set that aside. And then all we have is this first ring, which we're just going to thread that on. And this is going to give us the same diameter. You'll probably ask questions like, oh, is this going to end up just obstructing our field of view? You know, possibly, but I don't believe so because they wouldn't be making it like this. So there's a few checks that I want to go through in order to check all that out, but looks pretty good. And then we can throw this cap on, and there we go. We have one cap ready to go. Looks nice. And then the next thing I want to start with is the gear. So it comes in a case like this, and what you get is you'll get the oversized gear, which is what I purchased. And then from there, it comes with a bunch of these rings. So you're going to fit this to size. You can go on their website and they have a documentation that shows what size you need, but they give you all of these rubber rings. So the 65, 65, 62, and this is a 63.1. So let's look through here. This one's a 62, 63, and 63. So what we'll do is take this 63, since we are at a 63.1, goes inserts right inside of this ring here. You just feed this in there. And if you're like super close, because this is 63 and it needs to be like 63.1, you do have this tape that they offer as well, which might help, well, should help in that. I want to look to see how well this just fits as is. So yeah, I'm already going to have to force that on, so I'm going to wait to put this on, because as you can see, I have to get past the iris ring. So it's going to be a little bit of force to get that on there. I'm going to go ahead and wait till we get the ring off. Oh, I could squeeze past it, so let's take a look here. We're doing this as together. This is the first lens I've done, so yep, I don't want to force that on. I'm going to go ahead and put this in, knowing that that's going to fit around it. I'm going to take the other 63, those aside. And as you can see, what I have right here is one of their extra bags, and what I'm doing is I'm going to keep all of this stuff for this 21 in here, label this 21, and then if I ever need to go back to the Z, just a straight Z mount or a Nikon mount, I can always go back. So right now I'm going to feed this other one back in there for the 63. Get it all in there, nice and tight. Okay, that looks good. Okay, now what we can do is what we have here, as I already opened this up just to take a look at it, but is the Nikon 2 EF mount. And this is a really good shape. It's really nice. I know this company makes some really good stuff, and the reason why I know that ahead of time, that they make such good stuff is I had bought this already for the Cooke lenses. So I have these Cooke SP3s, and they already had the EF mount or E mount on the back. So I bought these extra rings that made them all the same diameter on the outside, because a few of them are different. So they have these really nice caps, and then these are all now 77 across the board. So they make super nice stuff. All right, so we need to look at the different screws that we have here. We have Otis Melvis, we have Classic Zeiss, we have Tokina, and then we have the Melvis 25 and 50. So we're going to need the Classic Zeiss. That's what we're working with. So let's put all these aside. And what I've thought about in doing this is make sure that all your stuff is laid out correctly. Once you put something aside, make sure that it's in the same spot, so that when you're going to line this up, you want to make sure that you pick it up and it lines up in the right spot. If that makes sense. So let's take this off. This always throws me off because it's Nikon. It goes the other way. But we're going to change that. So we just want to look to see what holes are going to line up on this. So all of those right there all line up. So what we're going to do is take this off, and like I said, keep it in the same spot, because then you'll be able to just easily pick it up and set it down. We are going to declick this though, so we're going to take some pieces off of it in order to do that. So let's just start taking this off. They do recommend that you hold a soldering iron to this to loosen these up, but I think they come out pretty easily, so I did not do that for this. There's one screw out, and what we're going to do is take this one screw, I'm going to flip this cap over, and I'm going to put this right in this cap so that we don't lose it. And then we're going to take this, and boom, take that out. Put that aside. One more. Take that out. And then slowly lift this up. All right. I'm going to put that to the side. And as you can see, this is locked in place right now, so once we push that lever, then we can move it, and you can hear it's clicking. So we're going to take that out and declick this, and it's honestly pretty simple. You're just going to pop this off. You're going to watch that there, and as you pop it off, you'll see what we're going to do is set this straight over so it's in the exact same spot, so we're not confusing ourselves. And if you see, there's a little ball bearing right there. That's all that's doing it. So we're going to pop this out. You want to be careful popping this out because you don't want to lose this if you're going to put your lenses back together. So this one is not coming out as easy as my other lens did when I did it. Looks like they have the 50 has a spring in it that just pops out. This one, it looks like it's actually like embedded in there and it's not popping out as easily. So my thing is I don't want to take this lens apart any further, but I do need to declick this. So let's look at this here. Analyze this lens the same way you probably would at home. I know for sure the 50 pops right out again. One thing you could do is tape this down and that way it won't pop up, but I'd like to remove it completely, which might be a lot more of a job if we're going to try and remove that. So looking at this, see, it pops back in there just fine, but that's where we're getting that click, and we want to declick this, obviously. So let's pop this back off. It's a crazy part is I thought this one was going to be pretty smooth, but I'm glad you guys are seeing this along with me, so then you can kind of see what kind of stuff you would run into. That doesn't look like it wants to come out of there. And I'm worried, say we clean this off and we do a little tape there, I'm worried that's going to bunch up in there eventually. So Zeiss made these really nice, that's for sure. That's definitely spring loaded there. So let's look and see what else we have to do here to possibly get this whole mechanism off. Because if you look, we have this, which moves back and forth. We have a screw there, 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 which that's part of this mechanism, so that might not be a big deal. And then there and there. But again, you know, we just want to watch what we're taking apart here and go straight up out with it. And those are machined in there really well. So those might be a little bit harder to take off. But if I show you on the 50, it comes right off pretty easily. So there's definitely a spring back there because you can get this to go back into itself. There we go. Now you can see. Took a bit to pop that out, but tiny little ball bearing. So we want to take that, make sure we keep it there. Now, just so you can see, if we put our iris right back on it, you'll see it locks into place here, right? And you can remove this if you want. I'm going to keep this in place because I don't mind that locking in. So it'll lock there, but then as you open it, it's completely silent. So what you can do is, if you see this here, right? That's your locking. And there it just popped out. And there it is right there. So you can take that out. Make sure you line this back up. Oh, it's still locked into place. Interesting. Okay, so we got to keep that in there. I didn't think that locked into place still. Alright. So we'll still be declicked, but we're going to keep that in there. That goes in there a very specific way, so I want to make sure we turn that back to where it was. Pops right in there. It's kind of hard to see, but popped back in there. And then we're going to get this lined back up. See the importance of making sure that it's in the same spot, because now it wants to slide in there a very specific way. There we go. Okay, locked, unlocked. Nice and smooth. Okay, now that we have that in the right spot, what we want to do is just make sure that we're lined up here. And this is going to change the whole mount to EF mount. So one of the things we do lose is we lose this collar that's around here, because we're going to see all the mechanics in there. So we're losing this collar with everything that's on with this outer edge. It's kind of a bummer because a little bit more can get down in there, but the good thing is, actually, my bad. What we're doing is, now that we got that off, this actually goes back on like so, and then this will go above it and lock everything in place. So we're going to take this off one more time, and now that we have this off to the side, we can grab our ring, and since we're not playing with any of the grease right now, we can just slide this right over. What I'm going to do is take this straight off, set it down straight in front of us, and then I can start forcing this on there. And it takes a little bit, because like I said, it's right on the cusp of the right size. Don't want to turn my lens too much because I need to be able to see, need to be able to keep it in the same spot. These things are super tight. They always say, like, go a size up. Okay. Got to get that other one past it. See that rubber right there? Wants to stick on there. We want to get that past this area. I'm sure there's a more elegant way of doing this, but it's such a tight fit that once we get it down to that focus area, it's going to be on there really tight. You can't hear it, but I can hear it clicking. Not sure how much of this audio will keep in there because of our big studio heaters on right now in Denver. But this is pretty much, once it gets to that point, like, I'm going to be pumped about it because it'll stick in that area. And again, this is one of the reasons why I did the front cap first. You get a little bit more leverage on this. Just about there. You can see it's not wanting to stick in there. Just right over that edge. And I just turned my lens, so we'll get it all lined back up. You should be paying attention enough. I am as well. Just bring this up a little bit. Paying attention to how it's lining up on there. You know, and the thing is, like, this might take a second run at it. I don't want it to. Like, I really just want to be able to do this the first time around. But these lenses can be very delicate. And it's just getting past that big hump right there. It's giving us a little bit of problem. Because if we go 63.1, there's 62. We're already using 63. And we're at 63.1 with this lens, so we really have to kind of do it at this. Because we go 62, and then I think it's after that is 64, which we might go with 64. I don't know if 64 is going to give us the same, how tight this is. And like I said, we're doing this together. So I did not attempt any of this before. This is my first time doing it. So we're all on the same page as to like how difficult this stuff can be. And I would say, you know, what we're doing here is keeping a clean surface and working with this. And we're pretty close. Like, just take some patience. There, I just felt something click into place. So that's good. And now, there we go. Now we just slowly work it down. Well, just felt it just jump over all that. That was our biggest thing, right? So, there we go. Just want to make sure that that's all lined up. Looks pretty good. It's all lined up there, nice and thick. And we're not covering anything. Alright, our next thing is going to be to take our grease, which is here. We're going to take this and we're going to line the inside of this. Oh, see, it's dropping out again. Gotta make sure this one stays in there. It's our locking pin to release it. Okay. Now let's just see, by the looks of this, I was about there. And probably dropped in right here. One of the things you can really tell is this lever here. You can see where that starts to run over. So what you want to do is kind of drop this in there, and then you can loosen that. And now we're back to completely declicked. Let's clean up this back element here a little bit. Okay, and then we're going to pull this off again. And now we know it's right there. Let's make sure that doesn't fall out, so we can hold it that way. What we want to do is take our little brush. So I just have a small little brush here, and we're going to paint the inside of that with this specialty grease. Simmod has this grease as well. So from what I've seen, it's you can be pretty heavy with it, but you just want to get this inside here. And as you can see, this is something we could do. We could take this apart and do this again. But this is just a specialty resistance grease. And sorry if the camera can't see it exactly, but you can kind of see right there where those ridges are. That's what it was running on. That's what that bearing was running on. So I can paint all this in here. I'm kind of being very liberal with it, but also I don't want it to, you know, get all over the lens itself. I really want it to stay inside all of this. But you can really feel when you're painting this on how thick this actually is. So it's pretty thick stuff, which I think immediately we'll notice when we put the lens back together. Let's see how that feels. So I'm going to just test this out. We still have all of our parts over here. So we're going to pop this on right where it was. It's going to fall into place here. I can already feel the resistance of it trying to drop into place. It being a little finicky because there's this grease on there. And I think what we have is this one's not playing nice. There we go. There, it dropped in. So immediately I can feel the resistance. Immediately. I mean, it feels, you can't tell on camera, but it's just, there's just some nice resistance on it. Which means you could really, like, once you lock this in place, you know, your f-stop there, wherever you're going to be, feel the resistance. All right. So I like that. You want to make sure that pin is right underneath there. So now you can see that resistance we're getting. Very nice. Okay. And then we're going to drop our Nikon mount back on, and you can kind of see where the points are, contact points here. So we're going to drop this right back on there. And I'm really liking this resistance, so I'm going to keep this where it's at. And right now, this sounds weird, but it's not locking back into place, which honestly is okay with me. For some reason before it was locking back into place, but I kind of like that this is not locking. I feel like there might be something that I missed, which I want to check that out, see if there is something I missed. But it feels like it's in place. This button's not doing anything anymore. I think I'm going to pop this off and look at that, because I think what happened is, yeah, the grease locked it in. So again, I'm okay with that. I don't mind that that doesn't spring back, because looking at it here, I can see the spring right there. I can see it right here where it looks like it's jumped off. And so if you want to fix that, you can pop this back into place so that it does lock into place. So right there. And then we can tighten this down. I think with moving all of this, it was jumping out of place. So we'll pop this back in here. Yeah, I can see it definitely wanting to jump right there. Again, I was okay with that. Just takes a little bit of force. I was okay with the iris the way that it was because I didn't mind that it didn't lock. But as I look at this, you can see this springing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So just want to get that back into that area. There we go. See, now it locks again. So it looks like that was this area right here. And it looks like it's jumping out of place every time. Yeah, there's a part that's jumping right there. That could be a problem though. So let's take a look at this, because it looks like this piece is supposed to sit down in there, and we may have been a little too aggressive with it. And now it's one to jump out. Yep. So let's take a look at that. It looks like that. What we want to do is make sure that we feed that back in there the way that it was. And I think by this here is pretty loose. Yep. So this here looks like possibly someone adjusted this and then didn't. And as we were wrenching on that and putting it back into place, oops. Make sure you watch the way this thing's facing, because it makes a lot more sense to put it back in there that way. I'm kind of glad that you guys are all going through this with me, because this is tedious stuff, you know, if you want to do this correctly. And this is not wanting to jump back in there very well. And we've got this grease on here, so it's making it sticky. But this piece would have eventually come out, you know. So we want to make sure that it's back in there correctly. Let's take a look at this, because it looks like this is what's loose. So let's set this back in place. Which looks like it goes that way. There needs to be some sort of popping action here. Which it might be flipped around the other way from the looks of it. Is what happened is when we, yep. So that looks to be like it pops in that way. It looks like when we were putting this back together, or when we were taking this apart, that may have gotten loosened up too much. So let's take a look at that. If we do all of these lenses, this will probably be a very long video. So I'm not sure that you guys are all going to want to watch this whole thing, but just making sure that's in place again. Yeah, that's got a spring to it now. Let's get this tighter on there. Yep, that's got a little bit of spring to it. So let's see if that does it now. Let's pop this back on. We've got our main spot there. Yep, you see that spring action. So I think we got it back into place there. Yep, it's definitely locked in now. Let's push that. Now we've got it, and then it locks again. So it looks like we fixed that problem. Put that back into place, and then I want to feel this again. Feels nice and smooth. Locks into place. There we go. All right, let's put this back on. Now that we know, we're going to line our holes up, and then we're going to put the Simmod adapter on there. Make sure we're lined up there. Everything looks great there. We're going to take our classic Zeiss, and I just want to kind of do a little bit of a dry fit on these to make sure we're going to be in the right spots. And then what we can do is add our thread locker to it. Okay, that looks like it's going to drop in just fine. Yep. So what we're going to do is take one of these. And like I said, they suggest you use thread locker. It's not necessary, and this is a removable thread locker. So I'm just going to take a little bit here. Just dab, nothing crazy. I don't want to do something too much to where it gets locked in there. We just want it to be just slight anyway. Slightly removable. Once you lock these in there, they're pretty good. So you don't ever want to tighten them down all the way first. You want to get everyone started. Again, just a little bit of thread locker. And we'll pop that in. Start that. Make sure you're going easy on these threads too. You do not want to cross thread this. A little bit of thread locker. Tap it off. Pop that on. One little trick is if you go backwards. If you go backwards and then you end up, you'll hear a click or you'll feel a click, and then you know that your thread is aligned. Right now you guys are probably not seeing it very well, but I'm just locking all these in. So they go in pretty easy. Making sure that's hitting the mark. So it said these are classic Zeiss, but that's not a classic Zeiss. So Nikon AIS, that screw is too long. Yeah, these screws are too long, so it's starting to like slide out. And I'm not gonna force this on any further because I could feel the end of it. So here's what we gotta do. Take these back out. Good thing we used a removable thread locker. And take a look at the size of these and see how deep. So we went all the way, a little bit shorter than that. So let's look and see which ones we have here. So the Melvis looked to be too long. That was a classic Zeiss. The Tokina looks to be a longer. And Nikon, I mean, those are super short. So, but if we look at the classic Zeiss, if we look at what we had here, those are pretty small. So maybe we go a little bit bigger than that. So I think we can go with these Nikon AIS ones. Let's see here. Let's back these out. I really thought it was the classic Zeiss, but they're definitely too long. And you know what the great thing is we have 4 more lenses to do, so when we do these other lenses, we'll be able to be flying through it since we did all this ahead of time. You know, you'll still want to take your time, of course, but all right, let's see what we've got here with these. There's 3 of them. Let's take a look. I just wanted, oh yeah, those tighten down real nice. Okay, so this is going to be our size. Let's pop this back out. Let's put a little thread locker on there. Again, you don't need a ton, just a little bit, just a little bit. Pop one on. Find our other hole here. And you know, I think it's good to keep all of this, you know, this trial and error in here, because then, like, hopefully you guys won't make the same error that I did. So then we'll pop this on, screw that down. All right, super tight. We have a EF mount now. It's completely passive, which is great. We will no longer use this cap because it will not fit anymore. I'll have to get some more Canon ones, but they'll fit on just fine. Even though that's not a 35, you know, we'll change that out. But we have now a geared and then a completely dampened, very dampened actually, like really nicely dampened. And it locks at 22. So most of the time you're going to have this open, but very dampened and feels great. Feels really smooth. So really pumped about this one. So with each of these, we still have all of our, you know, our ball bearing, our extra screws in this cap, which came with it. So I'm going to take this packet, put these few items in there. So that way we don't lose those. Because, you know, you never know with resale value if you're going to want to do these, if you're going to want these to go back to normal. Or, sorry, go back to Nikon mount, which you can reverse it. It's going to be a little painful putting that ball bearing back in, but you can do it. Let's get all this in there. It's a lot easier using something that. So now all the screws are back in there, and what we're going to do now is take our cap, our back cap, those are all together, and put it in here. And now that's what we're going to do is take this and we're going to take our printer and we're going to clear this out, and we are going to call this 21mm Zeiss, and I'm just going to put parts and I'll put it away. Alright, let's print this out. Ooh, I got it extra big. Will not be able to, well, I won't miss that. So put it on here, and then I'll put this aside, and then that way we'll have the parts in case we ever want to go back. So what I'm going to do is take this cap for the 35. I'm going to take this off. So I'll probably relabel these anyways. Maybe get some that don't say Canon, but they're not so bad if they say Canon. So lock that on place, and then we're good to go with this one. That's super smooth. That's super smooth. And let's start the next one. All right, now moving on to the 50. Now, if you look at the 50, what I have on here is what's called a NovaFlex adapter. And what this one does, obviously, I think we talked about this earlier, but it allows you to adjust your iris automatically. declicked as well. So you can go in these small increments, like declicking a lens. And you're probably wondering, like, why don't I just keep this on here and not go through this whole process? Well, I want these 4 lenses to be all the same, so probably put this up on eBay and see if I can get anything for it. But again, when I bought this, I was shooting all Canon back then. And I was reading up on having these Zf.2 lenses, which now I know I needed ZF, which would have been fine, but it allowed you to manually adjust, which I love that, because I didn't want to have to use the camera. And if I ever went away from Canon cameras, which I don't use them anymore, I'm shooting mostly Sony and Red, I can use these lenses still. So the good thing about this is you can just, or now to take this off, we're going to pop this off. So that just pops off like that. It's a super nice adapter. These things went for like $300 brand new, so they were really good adapters. But we'll set that aside. We need to bring in one of our bags here for all of our parts again. So we're going to have that ready to go. And another thing that I had on here was these geared focus rings, or these focus gears that were zip tied. Super interesting back then. And you could basically just put it on any lens and zip tie it on there. It worked all right for what it was, but let's get that off. I'm just going to pop it off. This thing's been on here for years, and I'm surprised that it's lasted this long with just these zip ties. So it says a lot about these zip ties, but we should be able to, without destroying our lens, be able to pop this thing off. So I'm just going to kind of pull at these. Yeah, you can see they're on. They're really good. You can use a pair of snips and probably get this off pretty easy. But what I'm going to do is, don't want to gouge this thing, is just turn these and eventually they'll pop. So you just got to get a good grip on it. Turn. And eventually it's going to pop. Wow, that's why these things stayed on here this long. I don't know what these zip ties were, but I need to get some more of these, because that's probably, it feels so good for this lens. This thing hasn't been off since I bought these lenses. So could rip those off or just slide this off the back here. Yeah, this thing is on there well. All right, there we go. Probably won't use this thing again, so we'll toss it aside. All right, let's clean up this lens a little bit. We still have our lens cloth here. Get this cleaned up a little bit here. Let's take our front off. Cap just falls right off. Let's keep that together. Let's keep that together, because we won't be using this lens hood anymore. And this lens is super small. You know, it's a 1.4, tiny little lens in comparison to the 21. Like if I bring the 21 back in, I mean, look how much bigger those are. So gonna be some issues with some matte boxes, that's for sure, but gonna give you a really cool look. So let's clean this up a little bit more here. All right. So we've got our ring. I'm gonna pop that on. Since you guys saw the first process, we're probably gonna move through this a little bit faster. Okay, nice, love that. All right, let's take this off. And again, position it to where, I'm gonna position it here where I have my lock there, right there. So it's the same as the last one. We're going to go ahead and pop these off. Again, you want to go pretty slow with these, because these ones have actually been pretty loose, which surprisingly, you know, they've come off pretty easily. But you do not want to strip these heads, because that will be very difficult to get off. So let's flip our cap over, pop those off in there. And I was curious about this, and I believe I took the 35 apart first, and just to see like how easy it was going to be to, you know, declick these. And it wasn't too difficult, but I remember the ball bearing just come flying out of it, and that was it was a little troublesome. So once we get this off, same thing, we're going to set it aside here, and then we're going to look at our, I'm going to pop this one off. I'm going to get past there, and then you might see the ball bearing come flying off. Just be careful when you pop this off. It's a little tight in there. Okay, we'll set that aside. And there's our ball bearing. So we want to pop that off again. As you remember on the last one, we had a little bit of trouble on that one. So we'll see. That came right out. That was so easy. That came right out. Might be hard to see that one, but it came out so easy this time. That is so tiny. All right, we'll put that aside. Just like so. Spin our lens back around so we have it right back in the spot where we did. And we can see our little contraption here that we were having issues with on that 21. So that's something to keep an eye on, because this one is in pretty good shape. It's the other one, that 21 was a little beat up, so we might want to keep an eye on that whole thing. All right, let's go straight to our ring. This one is a 66 to 69. I believe this one is a 66 straight up. So this is going to be a pretty tight fit, and it's going to look somewhat ridiculous because it is going to be such a tight fit. So all of our rings here, they just give you all the inserts. We're looking for a 66. There's one, and 69, 67, 68, 68. It's going to be the last one. It always is. 68, 67. Oh, did they only give me one? Uh-oh. There's 166. That's not fun. Maybe the 69 is mislabeled. There's 68, 67. Oh, there's one more in there. Ha ha ha. And that's 66. All right. So let's put these aside. We don't need those currently. Let's get our 66 out. And let's pop this right in the center here. These are really well made. I have to say, I really like how these look and how they feel. You know, they do not feel cheap at all. Feels like once you mod this lens, you know, you could keep it. It's going to stay like this forever. You're not going to run into any issues whatsoever. So you just want to make sure all those fit in the groove really nice. They're all popped in. Let's do it again in this one. Just pop them all in there. It's in there really nice. All right. Let's hope we do not run into the same issue we did where we were trying to slide this on the 21. Let's hope this is a little bit easier. It's almost too easy, actually. That slides really well. All right, that's on there. Really nice. It's almost like a little too loose. It's right at 66. And you know, they give you tape that you can put on there that helps. But I mean, it definitely locks in. And the biggest thing you want to test is at the end, right? So if you can hold your lens and then go to the very end, is this thing going to move on you? And it grips really well. So as I'm holding the lens, see, it starts to turn a little bit. So it's a little on the loose side for me. I don't want that to, if you put a focus motor on this and then it just starts spinning on you, you know, when you're at the end of focus, I don't want that. So I think we might get out that tape. And let's hope that it just wraps around it really easily So this is the tape. We didn't use this on the last one. We didn't need to, as you remember, it was really tight. So see how this tape works. If we can find the end. All right, there we go. So from what I understood is you line the inside of this so that it has a little bit more grip to it. So let's take a little bit of this tape. And we'll just line this entire inside here. It seems like, I don't know, unless this tape sticks to itself, then it might be a little more difficult to, what you could do is put it on the lens first and then try and push it over it. I'm just worried that it would bind up. So we'll see what, this doesn't really stick to the rubber that well. Another thing you could do is probably put it on the inside of this and then it would push out on this a little bit more, which I think is what we want to do because this feels like it's just really loose on there. And we want to take advantage of that rubber. So let's take a step back here and let's take this, got plenty of that tape. So let's pop these out, which those come out really easy. And then let's line the inside of this with tape. And I think if we line the inside of this, which is probably what it says on their website, but did not watch all of that. So you can just line this inside here pretty easily. Can be a little tedious though, let's be honest. It's a pretty easy way of doing it. But I think this is going to give us just enough to make this a little bit thicker. So what I want to do is kind of get an idea of where this is going to end. Let's cut this off. This will be a little bit easier to work with. Cut off my finger. Sorry if the lens keeps going out of focus here, so I keep moving around quite a bit. This is the first time I've done this type of conversion, so I do not want that to stick to itself yet, because there's a little area in here. Yeah, this sticks inside here much better, and it's pretty obvious. It lines the inside of this ring really well, so this makes a lot more sense. Trial and error. But this one is definitely, you have to be patient. This is not a speed game whatsoever. Probably why this video is going to be super long. Okay. And let's get one more piece. Going to do the same thing. Let's get it started in here. Get an idea of how long it needs to be. A little bit more. Right about there. Pop that off. It's going on a little bit smoother this time. It's fitting right around it pretty easy. Right in that cavity. Nice. All right, we can pop these back in. This should give just a little bit more grip, which will be nice because we just don't want it sliding around as much. It's very subtle, like might need to put 2 lines of tape in there, but this pops in pretty easy. We're like right along that edge. So on their website, they talk about how to size them correctly. Which, by the way, in this one, they were running a 25% off sale. So I was kind of thinking of building out this lens set anyways. And this was great. Great timing because I could get all this stuff at a discount, which was so worth it. All right, let's pop that back on. All right, already it's a little bit more grip to it. Not as tight as the 21, but definitely tighter. Okay. Yeah, that's already feeling better. It'd take quite a focus motor to pull that. I don't even think it can. Okay, that's in pretty good shape. All right, now let's get this turned back around to where we were. I always look at this because I can see where that iris is. That's a good point for me to see where this ring lines up with it. All right, so now that we've got that, we can put grease in here. So just take a little bit of your grease here, same thing. You don't want to load up too much. They give you quite a bit of grease, but if anyone else needs a lens done, I guess you can hit me up and I could put this together for you, but I can't. I'm not like a professional in this. So, you know, I can't warranty all of that stuff, but obviously if you sent me a lens in great shape, I could do this process for you. Zeiss is a little bit easier. I know that there's other lenses out there that you could do this process the same, you know, with some FD, Canon FD lenses and those types, but quite a bit. There's actually like the Melvis lenses and some older Minolta lenses. You know, I've seen that they make kits for all of this stuff. So once you get that pretty thick on there, because we like that to have a nice dampening to it. Ooh, we don't want to lose that. It's starting to fall out on us. Oh, there it goes. Well, we know where it goes at least. Let's pop that back in. Remember this little thing that locks the lens in? Just likes to slide out on you. Okay. All right, let's get this lined up. Pop it back into place. Should go. Just move that down a little bit. Oh, I see what's happening here. We're losing our piece. Our little stopper here. Or our lock, I should say. Probably not in the best place. All right, same thing. So as I'm doing this, I'm starting to realize that if I pull the iris back just a little bit before I put it in, it actually like starts to slide in there a little bit easier. But it's this corner that's giving me the most problems. So what I can do is start from that corner, pull the iris back, and then pop it right in there. And there we go. So unlock that. I like that, super smooth. I almost feel like I want to put a little bit more grease in there because it's nice, but I'd like a little bit more resistance. So let's pop it back out. And just in some like very specific spots, let's get some more grease in here. I'm not gonna lie. This is kind of fun. It's very tedious, and also something about it that's relaxing. Alright, same thing. We're gonna get that corner in there, pop our iris, open here a little bit, and get that around. Yeah, that's much better. That feels a lot tighter. Okay. Now, we're gonna pop this on. Lined up our holes. That tape needs to fit right. That contact needs to fit right in there. Let's see. There's our iris right there. That's good. Line those up. And let's open this up. All of these are going to be the same. So you're going to have your set of screws and then all your hole and your mount. So we realized that on the last one we needed this Nikon. So let's just go with that. Put all these other ones aside. We can actually put them with all of our lens lens extra stuff over there with our hood and all of that. So this is all together. All right, let's look at our mount here. See where it lines up. There's 3 holes, and you also have this notch, which looks to be like it would go there. All lined up there. That looks to be all lined up. So let's take our screws here, dump those out. Perfect. Make sure we all fit here. It is helpful if you use a screwdriver with a little magnet on it or magnet inside. That feels good there. That drops in there. And let's check this last one. All right, we're good. So let's take one of these. Just get all these locked in so that they're all in their spots. And then we'll take this one, pop it out. What we're gonna do is just like that. The easiest to pop them all out. Just be careful. I'm gonna take one. It's a little thread locker. Pop it in. Just a little tight. I'm not gonna go all the way yet. I want to get each of these in place first. Place. And then this next one. All right. Now we can start tightening them all down. It seems simple, right? It's like something pretty simple to do, but it makes such a difference. All right, we are good there. That locks in. It's nice and smooth. Let's take the cap off. Take a look at that. Nice and smooth. Pop the cap back on. And it is a 50, so we're good there. Might make some custom caps as well, but nice and thick. Focus ring here, focus gear, and there we have 2. All right, let's get set up for the next one. So before we get started on the 35, we're going to want to remember that we need to label our bag with all of the parts. So the lens hood, the cap, the ball bearing, and then same thing with the 21. So we're going to want to make sure we do that with the 35, and I have another bag here for that. Now, if we look at the 35, This was one of the first ones I got too. And this has another one of those adapters on it. Now this one is not in as great a shape. It weighs a knockoff, I think, yeah, Photodiox. I don't know if any of you guys remember that brand back in the day, but they weren't the greatest. So let's just jump right in this one again. Same thing here. What we're gonna do is keep this back cap on, and we'll start at the front. I need to put that aside and put this. These are such nice lens hoods too. Like, they're felt on the inside, and they're just really nice to use. And they're fully metal, which was great. I love that part about them. So let's get another lens wipe here. Let's clean this one up. Such a tiny lens. It's a little f2, but again, beautiful lens, super sharp. Really loved working with these lenses. And you know why I got the 35 and why I got the 50, I don't know, because I mean, I was just starting out. I didn't know my focal lengths very well, and I was buying these Zeiss lenses over buying actual Canon lenses, which is kind of funny that that's what I did, because I shot on a lot of Canon. But you know, that's what I knew. So let's put our ring on there first. These things are touchy, but once you get them on there, you could probably put a little thread locker on these too. I don't know how great it would be, but that's on there pretty good. Get our cap on. Okay, now we can start on the back. Let's take this off, and let's pop our adapter off here. This one's a little touchier. Okay, got that off. So remember, I have these two adapters, and that's what I was using. And as you can see, what they did was there's that little lever there that moved back and forth. And what that did was give you that would adjust the iris. It's pretty cool. Someone made those. This one, Novaflex, made in Germany. So really well made. So really love that. Okay. Let's clean off this back. Haven't showed this little bad boy, but this is a great little travel blower. Alright, same thing. I want to position this lens closed right where it was. And let's get started on this one. So it's a little greasy here. This stuff is so sticky, but it's great. Alright, same thing. Take it easy when you pop these off. Some say, you know, to take a soldering iron to it, and that way it loosens everything up. But not necessary with these. You just gotta go a little slow on it. Alright. Put these in the lens cap. Put the lens cap. Lens cap. Okay. Let's pop it off. I think these lenses are in really good shape for, you know, they didn't get a ton of hard use or anything, but still in really nice shape. Let's pop this off and let's watch for that ball bearing. See how easy this one, yep, came right out. So some of them just pop right out. That 21 was giving us a little bit of grief, but these are going pretty smooth now that we've got this down. All right, looks good. Okay, let's get that ring on. Let's get a focus ring on there. Again, this one is a 63, I believe. So this should fit on, hopefully, smooth. Unlike our last one, that was a little, we had to add tape to it. So there's 64, 64. 62, 63, and 63. Ooh. Whoever packaged this was very nice. They put them all in order and paired up. So that was nice. Shout out to Simmod, whoever was doing that packing for me on this one. At least that one. Alright, one thing we can do is put this in first and kind of just check how it looks with one ring, or how it fits on there with just one piece of rubber. That way we can work a little smarter on this one and not take longer to put it on there. Yeah, that's going to be tight, so that's going to go past. You'll have to jump past that. Let me check their page again and make sure that this one's a 63. So it's a 63.4. So I don't know if we would want to go to a 64 and then use tape, because this feels like it could be pretty tight. See if we can get this one past it and see how well it gets on there. Yeah, this is pretty tight. We might have to go with the 64 and some tape. So let's pop this off. It's kind of a trial and error with this stuff. Again, trial and error. $63, $65, $62. Be the last one, of course. $64, $64. You know, another thing we haven't tried is actually to just slip this ring over and see how well it fits on there. See, that's pretty loose. And I'm curious, once it's in the ring, once it's in here, is it tighter? But let's take, just for... See, the 63 actually like slides over fine when it's not in the ring. But once it gets in that ring, it tightens everything up. So we should be good with the 64, but let's check. Again, they provide the tape in case we need it. But let's pop one of these 64s in. Same thing, just fit it in all the grooves, like so. I'm worried about this one for the 85 because the 85 focus ring is really tight, and I might have got too big of a, I should have got the smaller focus ring, but I just love like the tactile feel of these bigger focus rings when you're, especially, you know, pulling focus manually, even with hand, or pulling focus with just your hand. It's really nice. Yeah, that's going to be a nice tight fit. So let's see how far we can get it down there. Okay, that's where it's loose. Once we get it past that, it's just loose right there. Almost like oddly loose. Way too loose. That's going to take a lot of tape. That's way looser than the last one. So I say we work the 63 on. And we just need to be careful of all the mechanics here. But that's just too loose. 63.4, once we, you know, do a little work and get it on there, we're going to feel much better about having it nice and tight on there. I say we as if we're all using these lenses, but hey, they are up for rental. There is that. So let's put these 64s aside and let's go back with the 63s. And this is going to take some time. So if you're into not watching me struggle, maybe fast forward this. Well, that was a little bit easier than holding it up to the camera to put all those on. Just leaving it down there. Alright, let's get this one on. Okay, we're just going to have to be a little more forceful with it. Because it's really getting it past this iris ring. Well, the iris ring is off, but it's like right below it. Oops, I can feel it like peeling back there a little bit. It's that second lip. is rubber, so you know it's not going to destroy your lens or anything, but we're going to have to work it the same way we did on that 21. Kind of get this tucked in there. We don't want it to roll back on itself because that'll be much harder to deal with. And I have a feeling that's what happened to our 21, was we were putting a lot of force on this area, and that was what was giving us problems when we were putting it back together. So something to look out for. Again, this is my first time doing it, so I'm not a professional at this. This isn't something I do on the regular. This is the first time and first set of lenses, so I'm going to actually be really careful around that area. This is all on pretty smooth right here. It's, you know, getting into this area. And again, I don't want to gouge anything up with what I'm using here. I'm just using a little bit of pressure and pushing down at the same time to try and tuck this rubber in there. Because once we get past this area, it tends to be a little bit easier. But you could see it's really curling up right here. So if I can work this down slowly, just pressing on it a little bit. Starting to pop out a little too much there. You know what we should do is not work around that as much, or work around that more. So let's pop this up. And then kind of work it all at the same time. Ooh, so close. This rubber just needs to get stuck down in there with everything else. There we go. Once we get past that spot. Yep, that was well worth it to use the thicker ones. Because now once we get it into that area, yep, that's on there very nice. So let's pop this up a little bit. Get that lined up all the way around. Very nice. Nice and clean. Let's get a little of that dust off. All right, again, we find our focus or our iris right here. It's a good reference point. Now we can add, we want to watch our stopper here, our release. We need to come up with a name for that. I'm going to hold that into place this time so that way it doesn't pop out on me. And then I can start putting the grease on here. I'm going to go a little thicker this time, just so that it's a little bit, so we're not taking it back off again and putting it back on. The nice thing is that, you know, if we ever need the iris ring to be a little bit firmer, you can always add this grease in there, because they just do a very little bit in the factory. All right, same thing. We're going to pull, line this up here. We're going to pull our iris ring back. Drop that on. Oh, that went so smooth. All right. Let's feel that. Nice and smooth. Really feels like it locks into place, which is nice. Not completely locks, but definitely stays in place. And then that locks really nice. That one's in good shape. The one I bought on eBay was not as in good shape as this, so I guess I take really good care of my lenses. All right, let's put that back in place. Let's get our cap back on here. Let's line those up. Looks good. Okay. And let's get to our mount here. Same thing. Icon to EF. Rip this thing apart. Should have this thing opened, and then I don't have to do this every time on camera. But hey, you want to see the whole process. Maybe don't. That's what Instagram Reels are for. Just do it really fast. Same one. So I'm going to put all these aside. Same thing. Line up our notch. Like so. Feeling pretty confident about this one, so we'll probably just go right into it with the thread locker. By this fourth one, we're going to be flying, right? Well, if the ring always slows us down. But a little bit of thread locker. Right into place. Ooh, there we go. A little bit of thread locker. Right into place. And one last one. Pop that right into place, and then let's tighten everything down. All right. Really like this one a lot more because it definitely feels like makes this 35 a lot beefier, and still really nice, smooth iris. So again, let's pop that off and take a look at it. Nice and smooth, and then locks into place at the end. So we pop that off. It's really nice. Put that back together. Put a cap on here. We'll label that one up 35, and then we'll jump on to the next one. Let's get this cleaned up and go to the 85. Okay, as another quick reminder before we get started, I went ahead and again labeled the parts so that you don't lose these. And let's get started on the 85. So I was really fortunate with this one. Got this one on eBay for a pretty good deal. And the thing with this one is it is a ZF mount, not a Zf.2. So it is still a manual iris. You just don't have all the electronics that you did with the ZF or the Zf.2. So, but again, like, let's take a look at this. Just gorgeous lens, gorgeous. It even went straight through and focused on the board down there. Just so much light coming through this lens. So very gorgeous. Love it, love it. So let's get started on this one. This one's fairly clean already, so again, these caps always throw me off because they're Nikon. So let's clean this up a little bit. Looks pretty good there. Let's go ahead and put this front ring on. Nice fit. Let's get our cap on there. Good stuff. Now we can start on the back. Let's pop this off. We need our bag for all of our parts. Let's keep that there. Alright, let's look to see where our button is, because I always like that as reference. Ooh, this one actually doesn't have one. Interesting. It just locks. Okay. It's gonna be different. Let's hope this one lines up right. I have not, this will be a first. So we're learning something new every time. Alright, well, let's pop this off. Have not taken this one off yet, so at all. This lens just arrived actually a day ago. So I had gotten all the parts knowing that I was gonna get this lens, because I really thought 21, 35, 50, and 85 was gonna be a nice, really nice range. 35 is turning into be one of my favorite ranges. Favorite focal lengths. Ooh, that's tight. I don't like that. That's pretty tight. Let's move on to that end. All these other ones are coming off pretty easily. But that one's really tight, so wait on that. Alright, let's take a look at this, because we do not want to strip that. Let's see if we can dig in a little deeper on that. Ooh, that's tight. It's tough to mess with this, like when they're that tight. Well, I don't have a soldering iron, so try to figure out what next steps we want to take, because we do not want to strip that out. But we're pretty loose on everything. Just that one is extra tight for some reason, and it looks like, you know, it's got a little bit of a gouge in it, like someone did over tighten that. Let's give it one more wrench here. It doesn't feel like it's budging. So, there needs to be a way that we could heat that up. And they do suggest, you know, a soldering iron, but we might have to pause on this one, and I'll figure out a way to heat this up, because right now it's really tight. And this was the last one too. Well, it's a good thing it wasn't our first one. So let me see what I've got here in the shop to see if we could heat this up. We'll be right back. Okay, so that one is giving me so much trouble. That one screw right there. So luckily I live close to a Lowe's. I'm going to do what they said and put the soldering iron there. So let's open this up. It's pretty quick. And what you want to do is literally, like, all you want to do is put this right on the screw, and what it's going to do is heat all of that up in there. And it shouldn't take long to heat the whole screw, but we want to just get it loosened up enough, heated up enough to where we can loosen it up. See if that did anything there. Pretty fast. Still not budging. So Let's just put this on here for a little bit and see what... I can feel the heat coming off the soldering iron, so it's definitely heating it up. I hope that they just didn't use, you know, a lock in there. Something that's going to lock it in a little too tight. That's still really tight in there. I didn't actually expect it to be as tight as it is, but everything else came out pretty smooth. It's this last one we're having issues with. Not heating up this area though. This would be tough if it's the last one that we can't get out and stuck here. Because I'm really not sure, you know, what you would do from here other than this suggested by them. I just don't like it. I don't like it. It's warming up. We'll see how long. Maybe we keep this on here for a minute. I'm going right off of the screw head because I don't want to go directly in there, and then when we start to try and twist it, we'll run into some issues. So I'm just going right off on the edge of it. Let's move that out of the way. Maybe that'll loosen it up. Man, that's in there tight. Ooh, that's so tight. Try this a little bit longer. So tight. The thing is in order to declick it, we need to get this off. If we were to actually just to try and put the other mount on, we could probably be fine because, yeah, we need this, this, and this screw. We don't need that one. But for some reason, this one decided to be locked on there really tight. Because if we look at where we're at with our screw holes, we're 1, 2, 3. It's these 3 here is all we need. So essentially, we could go straight to the mount. We'd be fine. We just wouldn't be able to declick this lens. And that's kind of a bummer because I really want to declick this lens. And we could go with this be the only one. I could go with this being the only one not declicked. But then it's kind of a bummer because I want to be able to, you know, take this off. That's too bad. But I'd still be able to put that on if I wanted to. Which is nice to know that I could still switch the mount. I just wouldn't have it as smooth as all of the other ones that I've already done. It's definitely hot. It's just so on there. So on there. Problem is, I just don't have any other tools that I can think of that would get that out without drilling it out. We don't want to drill it out because it could hurt the lens. There's just not a lot to grab onto either. This thing's busted anyway. That is not turning. Don't want to break it up in there. It's the only one. So frustrating. Has to be the only one. It's not a leverage thing because I'm going to get to this point where I'm going to run out of grip. What I think I'm going to have to do, as you can see, it's just starting to get chewed up really bad. I need to go and get... See, if I was to drill it out, that's one thing I could do, is drill it out really fine. And I wouldn't need that one screw again. But I'd have to go get my drill and slowly drill that out, because that is just in there. And then once you go from there, you could take some pliers and just start to wrench that out. But I may just have to go get my drill and drill that out, because that is so tight in there. And this is getting so loose. That's just no grip whatsoever. Alright, that's the next step. We're going to drill this out. Not going to be fun. Not excited about it, but it's going to be a slow process. And we'll drill this out, get this out of there, and then we'll protect this lens. We'll tape this up while we do that. So I'll be right back. So I've tried multiple ways of doing this, and this still is pretty stripped out. So unfortunately, my only option is really going to be to drill this out. I'm not excited about it, but this screw isn't necessary anyway. So let's tape this off to make sure that we're not going to mess up this element. And then what we'll do is drill this out, and we'll just drill this, just the cap of it, off so that we can get it off. And then we can probably unscrew the rest of it. So let's tape that off. And I'm just going to take a little bit of gaff tape here. That way we don't screw up this back element at all. We'll just tape over the top here. And what we want to do is just find a screw head that's going to be just enough to cover the top of it. So just barely the edge there. And again, this probably isn't recommended by most, but I'm running out of options here. So just going to be right, you can see there, we'll just cover that. So let's make sure our tape is good here. No shards are going to get in there. And we're going to take this really slow. We're not going to go really fast with it, because we just want it to. And when you drill, you can drill in, the best case when you're drilling out metal is you want to drill in reverse so that you don't chew up your bits. So you won't be able to see this very well, but I'm taking just a little bit off there. Already starting there, start to see it start to take in a little bit, barely. So going in reverse was taking quite a while, but you can see I'm starting to take out. Just want to take off the head of that so that we can get it in there. And you can start to see all these shards collecting here, so we want to make sure those aren't going to make it into the lens. Let's see if we can lift this at all. Still pretty well attached, so we're almost there. Again, I'm just taking it little by little. Oop, there we go. So just popping that off. Want to make sure again, get rid of these shards here. Where you can see a little bit there. Make sure we get that stuff off. We don't want to wipe any of this right now because we have all of this stuff around here. So let's take our blower, just get those shards out of there. Now I want to take some of these bigger pieces and move these off to the side because this could be really bad. But you could see that it ended up, it's really jammed in there, so not sure what it was. But here, we're going to take this off, put that to the side, and let's see if we can get our ball bearing out first. Make sure that we have that in a safe place. So take that straight out. Again, there's a lot of metal shards around here, so you just want to be careful. So looking at this, we do have a little bit of a lip left, so we might be able to take that screw out, but it'll be very, very little to work with. But let's see if we could take some needle nose pliers and take that out. Because either way, I'd like it to be out. I'd like it to be off this lens. We might not have enough to work with here. I think it's turning there, but it's slow. Just getting a good grip on it without smashing it. It looks as though they might have put some Loctite in this. So the good thing is the threads will probably still be in good shape, but this screw is definitely done. Nothing we can do about that. It's coming. It's a slow process though. It's really jammed in there. Now, knowing that I'm going to keep this lens probably with an EF mount, it probably will be considered a manual lens from now on. It's still nice to have this in decent shape. Okay. There it is. Don't know what was jammed up in there, but it's pretty tight. Alright, let's clean up a little bit of this so that we can get the rest of this lens put together. I'm going to leave that with the stuff. Move this off to the side. Let's get rid of our drill. Alright. So, again, be able to put this back together now. We did get the ball bearing out of there. Let's clean this off slowly. Don't want to go too crazy with it. Alright, and now let's see if we get this back on here, how well it's fitting. Okay, that's nice and smooth. So our next step is going to be to put this grease on the inside. So now that we got all this stuff cleaned off and out of our way, let's also brush off our So let me show you what we did here. So when we drilled this out, as you can see, all we did was just go low enough to right to where we hit that's gonna focus right to where we hit just the opening. So we didn't take anything, we didn't destroy anything on this. Still usable. We didn't destroy the threads. We didn't destroy the threads on our PC. There's a little bit of gouge there, but nothing, that can't be cleaned up or filed down a little bit. But we still have that. So it was locked in there with something, but we were able to get it out. With a little patience and a little persistence, you can make it happen. All right, let's get this all painted up here. So now we know how well that's going on. This one feels like a little bit looser than the other one, so I think what we're going to do is put a little bit extra grease on this one. And that's going to really be real nice in making this nice and smooth. Now, I haven't played, right now it's pretty cold in Colorado, but I'm curious to see how this grease is going to play when it gets a little bit warmer out, because I'm not sure if it will be as stiff. So that's something that definitely I'll keep an eye on once the summer rolls back around. But once I get this all painted in here, it'll be good. And I think I'm getting a step ahead here, because we don't want to put this ring back on until we get our focus rings on. We don't want to put this iris ring back on, because then it'll be a little bit harder to put the focus ring back on, as we've seen with the other lenses we've done. Let's get a little bit more in this corner here, and then we can set this aside. All right, we want to make sure we set it aside and it's not on anything that's going to be sticky. Let's just put it right here. Should be good there. And then let's check out our rings. All right. So we've got this one, I believe the 85 is going to be a 70. It's going to be a 70.5. So the thing that I was talking about with this lens in particular is you can see how thick this ring is in comparison to that one. So it looks like we're going to cover up a little bit of our markings. Not super excited about that, but already pre-ordered all this stuff, so at least we'll have the same thickness as we did with the other ones. So let's look here. We got 73, 72. Someone packaged this one nice again. 71 and 70 and 70. And it's 70.5. So I'm wondering if we go 71. Let's take a look at that. That way we don't have to put the tape on there. I'm not a big fan of wrapping the whole ring with tape. So that's actually pretty loose. Let's try 70. Should be going a step down anyways if we're trying to do 70.5. This might be a tight fit, but it looks like this edge is a little bit easier to get around than the other lenses have been. Yeah, that'll be a nice tight fit. So let's try the 70s. Let's get the other 70 here. And let's put these all in the ring. As I said before, a little bit easier to do this when we're on the table, but the thing is, there's a lot of metal shards on the table right now, so we need to get that all cleaned up before we do a lot more of this stuff on the table. All right, all in there. Okay, and then let's press it down. Actually goes nice and tight on there, and yeah, like I expected. It's a little bit easier to press down on there. Now that's a nice and fat ring. As you can see, we lost all of our markings there. But depends on if that's important to you. And if it is, honestly, you can get the skinnier ring, which is half the size of this. I personally like grabbing onto this and with a focus puller having that. So looking at how tight this is, it won't turn at all. That's great. All right, let's put our aperture ring back on. Let's get this turned to where, and again, this is a ZE lens or ZF lens versus the Zf.2. So they're a little bit different. This one being that it doesn't have the electronics. And honestly, I wish I had all ZF lenses because this was a lot easier for some reason, other than that getting stuck. So this feels nice and smooth. Again, clickless. And then let's throw our ring back on. And this will line up on those holes. We can see boom, boom, what we had there and there. So that lines up just right like that. Now, this is what I was speaking of earlier when we had this ring and how we needed to line it up. We actually don't need that hole that we ended up drilling out. So we're going to be in good shape with that. Let's line this up right on our, make sure our holes are still lined up right there. Looks good. Let's look at our Nikon AIS. What we can do is, as again, we're feeling pretty confident with this, so we can go ahead and put some Loctite on it first. Who knows what they put in the factory on that other one, because that was really tight. I don't think that was ever coming off. So we ended up having to drill that out. Oops, got a little too much on there. Again, this Loctite isn't permanent, so you can always pull it off. But at least it keeps it in place. And one last one. Tighten all those down. All right. Very nice. All looks great. Let's look at this iris. Let's grab here. Super smooth. Needs to work through just a little bit, but feels pretty smooth. Again, we'll keep an eye on if we need to take this back apart to add more grease in there. Got a little mark there. There we go. Came off. All right, let's put this back on. And let's get this all cleaned up, and then we can see all of them together. All right, as you can see, we have all of them here, our 35, 50, 21, and 85, all declicked, super smooth, and all with a nice focus ring on it. This is a great set. I'm pumped about this. The big thing with these is you are gonna have issues with some matte boxing because of the way that the lens does extrude. So you are gonna deal with that. But most of the stuff nowadays are clip-on matte boxes, so you'd be fine with that. And then you're also going to have some issues when you're setting your focus ring. As you can see, as we line up each one of these focus rings, the back caps are going to be off a little bit. So you're going to have to move that in and out if that's something that you're going to be thinking about as you're hooking up focus motors and everything like that. But overall, this is a really nice kit. It is available to rent on ShareGrid, so you'll have to check it out. So for me, this was a really fun process. I actually really love the tedious side of this project and problem solving, and I feel really good about this focal range that I have now. Having that 35 and 50 previously, early in my career, probably had those lenses for over 10 years. It's just been really fun to bring new life to them and bring them back to the forefront. And then adding that 21 and that 85, I really feel like I rounded out that range. So I'm really excited about taking these out on set. And again, I'm filming right now with the 21 on a Blackmagic 6K Pro. And I'm really excited about what I'm going to be able to do with these lenses. They are available for rent too on my ShareGrid page. So if you're ever in Denver, Colorado, or I live in Arvada, but if you're ever out this way, they're up on my page and you can check them out. So again, if you made it all the way to the end, that's awesome. I'm glad you watched it, and hopefully you got something from it, and hopefully you don't make the same mistakes I did. You know, just all of these lenses are operational and they're all going to be in good use. So nothing broke, which is great. So again, put your phone down and be somebody.